But I did get to see our next film, and I'm not sure I made the right call.
Tell them about it while I go get the thing that they gave me.
So The Watchers, it's a new horror film. It is starring Dakota Fanning as a young woman who gets stranded in the middle of the woods and then finds shelter in a mysterious cabin of sorts, where some strangers await the Watchers to come and watch them at night. It's a mysterious kind of folk horror, and it comes intriguingly from director Ishana Night Shyamalan. No, I did not misspeak. It is M. Night Shyamalan's daughter.
Yes,
and
sir.
It makes a lot of sense when you see this movie, because this feels a lot like a film written and directed by somebody who grew up being read Lady in the Water and stuff like that. Like,
Don't do it like that, bro.
It's got that folk horror vibe. It's got the unsettling nature that M. Night has delivered in all of his films, and it's got, this sort of like twisty kind of reveal to it that kind of flips the movie on its head in some ways, but I don't know if she yet has the effectiveness of some of her father's better work.
Of course not, bro. Of course not. Yeah, I know that a lot of people say that.
That's no shame, right? Like, M. Night is a genius.
So I do think a part of this movie is her discussing being in the shadow of her father.
Mm-hmm.
But the man is also producer on the movie. And it's the reason, we're talking about Nepo babies. But you know what Nepo spells backwards is open. And maybe if you're open enough to hear what these kids have to say, I would argue that the idea of the Watchers is a metaphorical thing about, like Cabin in the Woods, where that got really meta of, is every horror character doing what the horror audience wants? I feel like this is her as a director knowing, okay, my father's had all these expectations, right? You hear M. Night, you automatically know that the movie's going to end with a
big twist. Yeah.
I think she knows what the family name carries. M. Night. I'm glad you agree with me. Some people try to talk smack. M. Night's a genius, bro. M. Night is
he doesn't
talk about it.
Always deliver, but when he delivers. And he's always interesting. That's the thing. Is like, I will take an M. Night miss over many other directors' misses.
Except for The Happening, but I do agree with you for sure.
Happening's the worst, yeah. And
Happening is ridiculous.
Airbender's probably in that quality too.
The only thing is because I don't have that love for Airbender, so I didn't get hurt.
I don't either. Yeah.
I didn't get hurt, but I know it's atrocious. You have a man who began with a movie that people don't realize was his first in Wide Awake, right? Mm-hmm. Like more of a studio movie. And then in that comes in, and I believe it's Sixth Sense is the follow-up, right? And then Unbreakable, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So in doing the Sixth Sense, I mean, that's it. Like, you don't create something this freaking good.
Iconic.
And then expect for that to not follow you for the rest of your lives, right? Everybody knows, if I'm not mistaken, the Time magazine, when they called him the next Spielberg, the worst thing that could have happened to him. Worst thing that could have happened to him. At that point, they put so much pressure on this man that from The Sixth Sense to Unbreakable, which redefined superhero movies before we even had a Marvel or anything to really have to, Upen
subvert.
to kind of subvert. Then Signs. He had all of these back-to-back classics that
you could retire after that and be a legend.
I like The Village too, bro. I'd argue for The Village. I think it's decent. You're not a fan?
That's actually the one classic that I haven't seen, so I'll let you know.
Oh, okay. I'm very curious your thoughts on it. You don't know nothing. Like,
no,
you don't
I know.
I know.
Okay,
never mind. Because look, even The Sixth Sense, when you still rewatch it, and it's one of those where it's like knowing makes you go in with the kind of like microscope of like, ooh, wow, I'm actually catching a lot more stuff. The scenes play differently for me. That was where he was at his best, where the twist didn't ruin the movie. Even with you knowing it, it makes you feel like a detective watching it again. I would argue in this second half, it didn't hold up as much, right? The Visit is fine. I know that was like his return, and what he did with Split, and Old was okay. Knock at the Cab. He's kind of on like
Old.
He's coming back with like his little, return to form where he doesn't have to deal with the studio meddling. That was what happened with After Earth with Avatar. I like that he's funding a lot of his stuff because now he's able to have his daughter on there. His daughter worked
Right.
on Servants. His daughter worked as I think the unit
On
production
Old.
manager. Yeah, on
Yeah,
Old.
second unit.
So they've been able to work together on a lot of things. I do feel that they've been taking a lot of lore. I don't know if you've heard of the copyright things for Servant.
Right.
That was supposed to be dismissed. It has come back. A lot of these are adaptations. I miss the M. Night that wasn't adapting books. I miss the M. Night that was creating original stuff. Knock at the Cabin's a book. Old is a graphic novel. And The Watchers is a book as well. I read it.
Yeah.
I think the story in it is fascinating. The direction here is different. Know that this is not so much a horror thriller as it is a fantasy thriller.
Yeah.
The end of this movie is a different movie.
Yeah, it really leans into kind of like the folk tale aspect of it, the magical, almost like creature elements of it, and it as you say, kind of diverts somewhere in the middle and becomes a different kind of movie. Like it loses that same sense of foreboding and becomes more of like a solving the mystery kind of movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just
Legacies
like,
and lore. It felt
And
like
I
the
just
beginning of
never-
what the movie's supposed to be.
right, almost like they could have reversed it or something. And I
And
don't
the
know,
guy's writing another sequel to his book.
Oh,
That's
really?
supposed to come out in
Interesting.
October. So it feels like the movie did that knowing that they want to set up for a Watchers 2 already.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm interested in watching
Was
Watchers
there
2.
anything that stood out to you? Because as you explained, they get stuck in the woods. People are watching them. There's lore to this little cabin thing that they're
Yeah,
being
I thought
watched
some of
in.
the production design elements of it, like that cabin thing too, is like really creepy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it would be like a really sweet deal on Airbnb or something like that. But it has this like weird quality because it feels so out of place,
Yeah.
given that it's setting and you know, as they dive deeper into things. I thought it all looked really good. I don't know
It's
if
that
it's
two-way
shot as
mirror,
well. I don't know if it's shot as well as most M. Night films, which granted, like M. Night is
It shot
amazing.
decently.
So,
Shot
yeah, but
decently.
it doesn't look ugly by any means. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's some of the visuals that stand out to me, but
I think she's a
yeah,
production designer.
right.
I think she has talked a lot about that and wanting to get into art before her father said, maybe you should try directing. She's like, oh yeah, I like directing as well when daddy's there on set every day. But I think that the look of it, I think she's very focused on the technicality of it. Having gone to the same school as her father did, she said that they would play M. Night's films and no one would know that she was his kid. I don't know how with the last name like Shyamalan unless she used a pseudonym, but I think they both went to Tisch. She's been under his, guard, his watch, and being able to study that. But I think the direction in terms of the actors was not there. I know she got Dakota Fanning because she's trying to do the same thing of like she is the daughter of Shyamalan. Dakota's someone who we all grew up with, and now she's 30. We're looking at someone who we think is still a child, but now she's an adult. Her character's going through this like stunted growth because of something that she went in her past. Again, there's a lot that I like in the story. I wish the execution was better.
Yeah. I thought the way it started was really creepy and promising, and then it just doesn't really deliver on that intrigue.
You caught The Strangers, right? We covered The Strangers together?
Yeah, we did cover The Strangers.
Do you remember how that opened?
Yeah, because it does a little bit of the like flash forward thing. Yeah, with the phone call.
Guy in the woods with a nice watch who gets killed?
Yeah.
And this one is a guy in the woods with a nice watch who gets killed? I've been saying, bro,
I'd say I preferred it here.
the horror cliche is if you're a white guy in the woods, you're the white guy with a nice watch is the first die in horror movies now. So you gotta be careful. Do not
Isn't there
wear...
watching it in a Violent Nature as well?
Dude, I knew there was another movie in a Violent Nature.
There we go. It's a trend
This
now.
is the new thing. These horror cliches. We need to watch out for nice watch commercials out in the woods. It's probably an ad that these companies do for it, but I do think it's shot well. There's a very interesting story towards the end that intrigued me, but it becomes a completely different movie. I think that if you had a director who was more experienced with these actors, you'd be able to get something better out of Dakota. I think the best actress in the movie is let's see, the older lady's been in a lot of horror films. The one who plays Madeline, Here, I don't think she's given the best direction. She just knows how to emote the most. And ironically, when you read the book, she's not supposed to because of the character that she is. Georgina Campbell is one of the best horror actresses we have right now.
I was trying to place her the whole movie, but yeah,
Barbarian,
she's excellent.
Watchers, decent in Bird Box, and she's had a couple of other ones with Tim and All My Friends Hate Me. I think she's able to do a lot even when the direction's not there. There's a moment where her husband knocks on the door. You see it in the trailers, and she's directed to be like, "Oh my gosh, that's my husband!" And then the way she runs away, she doesn't. She just walks to him. I'm like, "What are we blocking here, bro?" The guy in the movie, when he has to pick up the camera, the camcorder, there's that one moment where they're trying to set up to be able to watch the watchers themselves. But he's moving around with the camcorder, but the camcorder recording doesn't move with it. I'm like, what are we doing here, bro? There's a lot of really weird stuff that happens in the second half as well, where you're questioning how they didn't know about things within this box. Different lore things dealing with the Watchers. But I think that if you know anything about Irish mythology, you will be intrigued by it and want to know more. I just wish that they approached it a little bit better, or maybe even started with the ending. Maybe instead of having that intro, have the pitch be the intro of them being trapped, and then expand midway through to what the story really wants to be. Because it ends in a completely different note than this, trap thriller that you think you're getting the first time you go. They give out these ads, bro. M. Night's not going cheap for his daughter. Nice. It's one of the better hats that I've gotten. It ain't changing my review of the movie, but I do appreciate the quality of the hat. And I appreciate him going all out for his daughter. I've noted that it's very interesting that M. Night made up his own middle name in college to be Knight, but it's her official last name. It's like, I think she's the oldest, so it's like his way of making her his junior.
Interesting.
So, she's in her father's footsteps. I'm very curious to see what she has in store. You could say it two ways. Is she following up on the Shyamalan name? Or is there going to be a point where we actually see, what Ishana's going to bring to the screen? I'm very curious to see what she has in store for the future. I didn't think it was the worst, but there was so much more potential, and I think that's why it falls flat sometimes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that like it starts promising but doesn't really. It's one of those movies that you can kind of feel the momentum dying as you're like, you want to like it more, and then it just loses you along the way. But if this is her grown-up film school or whatever it is, her taking the training wheels off or whatever, like I'm still curious to see what we'll get from her.
I'm so curious.
Hopefully, hopefully she has a really cool original idea up her sleeve that now that she's got one under her belt, she can move on to that.
I like Joe C. Shout out in the chat, said, shot by the guy who shot Lamb. I have seen that. Another reason why I think it really stands out, especially with how they shot in Ireland. There were some shots where they would do some really beautiful landscape things, but they had like the score sounded like The Shining. It'd have these horns that went like boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, all right, we're still borrowing a lot from a lot of other things, but I like you, am curious to see what she has next. The Watchers, I wouldn't recommend it in theaters, but I think give it a watch once it's out on streaming.